Hello, welcome back. My name is Michaela and I am a 5th grade teacher in Wisconsin. And today I'm going to go through all the things on my document that I fill out every year of all the things that I want to change for next year. Every single year since I first started in my first classroom, I have filled out this Google Doc and I just keep a running log throughout the year of all the things that I come up with that I want to change for the next year, whether because something went terrible in the classroom, or I just have an idea that I don't have time for, or I just want to change something up and see how it goes. So I just have this running list of all those things. Every single year I put it all in the same document. So I have everything from spring of 2020 when I had my first classroom. Every year I've had a new section. So I'm gonna go over everything from this past year. I'm hoping that you can leave in the comments any suggestions or feedback you have on my ideas. You might be like, hey, I actually tried that and it does not work. Like, don't even spend time on it. Or maybe you just have an idea sparked from something that I say here and you can tell me whether it's a really good idea or you have something that really works for you. I would love to collaborate and hear what you think. I have not looked this over yet, so this will be my honest reaction to the things that I wrote throughout the year. And some of them will probably be from a while ago because, like I said, I fill this out throughout the year whenever I have ideas, so we will see what I think. We are just gonna hop in. And I'm just gonna go in order of what's on here. So the first thing it says is walk through exactly how to set up notebooks, math, writing, reading, maybe preset sections. So something that I've been noticing the past couple of years is that my kids just don't utilize their notebooks really at all. So for example, like in reading, they don't really write about their reading. They don't really take notes at all. They don't really utilize their reading notebooks. And for writing, they were using their writing notebooks, but they were all over the place. Like I had kids who would just, open up to a random blank page and they wouldn't go in order. And then math, some kids were doing the same thing, and it was really frustrating trying to help them utilize their notebooks in a way that was actually beneficial to them. So I feel like I want to actually spend a lot of time on our notebooks at the beginning of the year and literally go through very clearly, how do we use them, where do we write things, how do we write things on the page, and maybe come up with sections in the notebook depending on the subject, and preset those sections with tabs or something. So yeah, I know there's a lot of stuff out there about notebooks and the way people set up their notebooks. So if you are a 5th grade teacher or something similar and you have a really good system, I would love to hear about that. The next thing on my list is folders. Use them. Math. Hand back math sheets and actually grade them. Turn in workbook pages somehow, ? So this was another thing. I don't know why I had folders on there and using folders. I don't know if that was just my way of trying to develop a system for turning in work and handing back work and correcting work. And so maybe a folder was in my head about that. And so the kids would do their workbook pages in class, but then they couldn't really turn them in because they had a backside to them that was for a different lesson. And so I wasn't really sure how to be checking the work that they were doing. And I want them to be able to get feedback on the work that they're doing, or I want to actually see the work that they're doing other than just walking around the room and working with them and observing them as they're doing it. I haven't really developed that system yet, but I really want to figure out a good way to be checking the work that they're doing and having them turn it in somehow and then getting it back to them. And maybe that's where the folders came in. Well, yeah, I don't know. Just all of my organization systems I feel need to be updated. And there's just so much out there and there's so much to do in the classroom. It's hard for me to organize it all and figure it out. But I think the more I think about it this summer, the more I'll be able to figure it out, which is great. On a similar note, my next point is math, go over work together. So I don't know if this will fit into the day, but I feel when the kids actually have to correct it themselves and look at their errors, or at least look at the feedback that's given to them, they can internalize it more, because I would hand back work sometimes, but I feel sometimes the kids would just look at the score at the top and then they would throw it away or just bring it home, and I don't know if they were actually utilizing the feedback. So I'm wondering if they actually had to be the ones to correct it and were actually engaging with that process, maybe they would internalize it more, or at least see more how to do the things that they got wrong. I don't know. Have you ever done that before? Does that work? Am I just like way off base? My next bullet point is classroom jobs posted in the classroom. Easier way to pay them. Digital. So this past year we had classroom jobs, and every couple of weeks we would go through and pick new jobs, and I just like picked sticks and with numbers on them, and they got to pick their jobs in that order when their number was called. And I had enough jobs for every kid to get a job if they wanted one, and I would pay them for doing the job. So if I noticed they weren't doing the job, like they wouldn't get paid for that. And then if they were doing their job consistently, then they would get paid in these little blue tickets that I got. And so all of the prizes that I had in my room or incentives, they could buy with their tickets that they got from doing their classroom jobs. And so I would love to keep classroom jobs. Classroom jobs are awesome, but we just had them posted on like a piece of paper that I would print out every time we changed the jobs. And I would love to have it like just posted somewhere, like actually have a classroom jobs section in the room that's like bigger. It's like easy to tell who has what, and then also easy to change who has what job. Like it would be nice for me to just like move. I don't know. I don't really know exactly how it would work, but I would love for it to just be posted big enough for everyone to see, easy to change around, and honestly just an easier way to pay them, because dealing with all the tickets was kind of annoying. And they would pay for things that they want to buy, and then I would just have like a bunch of tickets in a bin, and it was kind of obnoxious, honestly. So if I could like make it digital somehow, or make like a way easier way to pay, or an easier way to pay them, because that was the other thing, like each job, depending on how difficult it was or how much time it took or how much responsibility it had along with it, they would get paid different amounts. And so literally having to go through and like count up the tickets for each kid every couple of weeks, and then having to like pass them out, and then the kids didn't have a consistent way to store those tickets. It was all different depending on the kid. I just feel like it could be streamlined. And so if you have a really good classroom job system, that would be amazing to hear about. I would love it. I want all the ideas. My next bullet point has a bunch of things that I want to ask parents at the beginning of the year that I didn't ask in my main survey that I gave them at back to school night and meet the teacher night, because I gave them a survey that asked some questions that I wanted to know, but throughout the year I was like, oh, it would be really nice to learn about this. It would have been really nice to know about this. And so I made a list of some of the things I would love to put on that and know right away from the beginning. Also, before I say this bullet point, our school does not do homework. Like they don't let us send homework home unless we say that it is optional. But I have in the past had sent something home and like a parent got upset about it, and so I want to make it very, very clear that it's optional and know right away from the beginning if parents want me to send things home, because throughout the year I also had parents reach out to me like asking for more work for home, and if they want it, like I would send it home with them, but it was really based on if the parent reached out. And so I kind of want to just put that out there before I say this bullet point. So the bullet point is ask parents if they want homework, Scholastic, Spanish, preferred method of contact. Explain that homework will come home, but it's not required. I'm not like a big fan of homework, but again, I know that some parents ask for it, and our curriculum has like home connections sheets, and they weren't really utilized this past year except for the families that asked for work to come home. And so yeah, I want to know if they want that. I want to know if they want like the Scholastic book order forms to come home, because at the beginning of the year I was sending them home with like everybody, and like nobody ever bought things. So if they want it, I would love to send it home, but it's such a waste if they're not going to use it. I obviously want to know if they need things sent home in Spanish or a different language. I would like to know a preferred method of contact. Like my preferred method of contact is email or like messaging, because you can see it at any time, you can send it at any time, and you can reply and get back to people at any time. And then phone calls make me kind of nervous. But if that's the way that they would prefer to be contacted, then I want to honor that, and it would be nice to know right away from the beginning. So my question for you for that one is, do you have any other really important things that you like to ask parents right away at the beginning of the year? Like I said, I have a survey where I ask them about their kid, and I ask like different questions about what they can tell me about their kid, and I ask about how their kid gets to school and goes home. Like, do they walk? Do they ride the bus? Do they ride a bike? Do they get picked picked up. But yeah, I would love to know anything else that you think is a good idea to ask parents at the beginning of the year. My next one says, pack up routine, get it down, which I would agree with. Something I've learned this past year is that I need to be very, 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 very clear about what my expectations are for coming in the morning and for leaving and really anything, which is like one of the main things that people tell you when you become a teacher is like, get your routines and procedures down. But I had no idea how specific and detailed you need to be with that, which I might actually make a video about, because I watched so many videos of advice about this, but it never like stuck in my brain like exactly what they meant. So yes, that's a thing that for next year I want all of my routines, not just my pack up routine, but like all of them down to like the tiniest little detail, and I will be on the kids' butts about it. Like when we were in the last couple of months of school, I was like really, really strict about it, and I made them redo things a lot if they weren't doing it the way that we had talked about. And so yeah, I think that's something I can definitely do. And it really depends on what our schedule looks like at the end of the day next year, because this year it was insane and so short. But yeah, so that's something, not just packing up, but routines. Get them down. I would love to hear all of your procedure and routine ideas, because I am a sponge. I want to learn from the best, which is probably you veteran teachers out there, or at least teachers who have been teaching longer than I have, or even people who have been teaching not as long as I have and just like are really good at that. Like, I would love to learn from you. Math, organization, and storage. Like I said, we got a new math curriculum this year, and it came with a ton of supplies, a ton of manipulatives, like seriously so much stuff. It filled up like a whole cabinet, and we had a budget to be able to buy things to organize all of that. But I only bought a few things because I wanted to use it all before I bought something for it. I wanted to know like what would actually work. It's just like all stuffed in a closet right now, and I would love to actually come up with a system to organize it all. Like, that would be amazing. And so if you use Bridges, I've tried to do some research on this, and there's not like a lot out there that I like, but I would love to hear how you organize, or even if you don't use Bridges, like how do you organize all your math stuff? Like, I want it to be accessible for kids, but also out of the way, but also like look decent and not like look tacky and gross. My next bullet point, I tried to implement this at the end of this past year, and it went fairly well. But it's no seating chart, pick your own spots, flexible seating, might not be possible with space. So my class is supposed to have 27 kids next year. And so that's where the space thing comes in. Like, I might need to just be like, nope, you get what you get. But this past year I did try at the end of the year to let them pick their own spots within reason. Like, I made groups of kids that were assigned a color, and then I assigned all the spots in the room with different colors. So it's like, if you were an orange kid, you could sit in any of the orange spots. If you were a red kid, you could sit in any of the red spots. Because I asked the kids before we implemented this, like, who are some kids that are good for you to sit by? Who are ones that are just, it's not good for you to sit by them? What are some other things that you want me to know about where you sit in the classroom? Like, do you prefer to be in the front of the room, the back of the room, by yourself? Like, what do you like? And obviously I made sure to follow anything that is in IEPs, things like that. So I was able to make sure all of those things were taken into consideration when I assigned their color, but then they got some freedom in where they sat in the room. And then obviously if there was an issue with that, they could come to me and we would talk about it and then move some things around. It actually went fairly well. Like, once in a while I would have to move some kids, and right when you implement it, like, they're really excited about it and they kind of have to get used to it. But I feel like if I started the year with this and made it just like, oh yeah, this is how our room is, like, you don't have to get a seating chart, like, you don't have to worry about like getting put next to people, and you just get to pick your spot every day. then I wonder if it would just become like a normal routine, because I also want the kids to learn how to make good decisions about where to sit and like where do you learn best? What do you need to be able to focus? And like if you're not able to focus, can you take initiative to try to help yourself fix that? I think by 5th grade, that's a good time for them to like start having some of that freedom to be able to make those choices for themselves. But I think I need to definitely fine-tune that system and adjust how I did it at the end of the year to make it work better for next year. The next one is student data bin, which I think has been on my list for 2 years in a row, and I actually bought a bin for this year, and I bought folders, hanging file folders to put inside of that bin, but then I didn't utilize it because all I want is just a bin, like one of those, those crates, and you put like a file folder for each kid, and then put their stuff in there throughout the year. So if we do assessments or, specific projects or work or anything really that I could utilize for writing report cards or parent-teacher conferences, or if I just need some kind of data point for them, it's just all in one spot. And yeah, that didn't happen. I just like threw everything in like this big container, and if I ever needed something, I had to go like sift through it. But I definitely want to do this next year. I want a student data bin and actually use it from the very beginning. Okay, I'm gonna do it. You can hold me to that. Shelf for behind my desk. I just had like 2 crates stacked on top of each other that weren't very sturdy and just weren't great at holding things, but I would just like shove things on top of them. So I would just love a shelf that goes behind my desk. I don't care what the shelf is, I just need something to hold all of my stuff. This one's really important to me because I feel like it really sets the tone for the year if you do it right at the beginning of the year, and if you talk about it all the time, then it like starts to stick with kids. And even if they think it's weird or cheesy, if they don't believe you or don't buy into it, I feel like the more you talk about this, the more it gets in their brain. It's talk about growth mindset and how growth can be painful and uncomfortable. I'm sure we all know this and have seen it, but kids are notorious for being like, oh, it's too hard, like I don't want to do this, and then they don't try. And I want to like remind them consistently and have a big conversation about it at the beginning of the year and like reinforce it throughout the year that it's like, if it's hard, like that's a good thing. Like that means that you're gonna grow and become better from this. And if you have a good attitude about it and look at it as an opportunity to grow and become better, then it doesn't have to be this terrible thing. It doesn't mean anything bad about you. It doesn't mean that you failed. It means that you are getting better. And like, it is normal for something to be hard. Like I would get so frustrated with kids when we would literally do the first lesson of a unit and they'd be like, I don't get it. I'm like, you're right. Like, yeah, that makes sense. We just introduced this today and you've never done it before, so like that is normal. But then they would like keep saying they don't get it, they don't get it, they don't get it. I'd be like, okay, stop. Like, you're not gonna get it. I just need you to hang in there and try your best to understand it today. And even if you understand it a little bit more than you did at the beginning of this lesson, like that's a success and that's what I want from you. And then tomorrow it's gonna get a little bit better. I wanna have that conversation right at the beginning of the year, so hopefully I can just reassure them that that is normal and that's supposed to happen. And I would expect that you don't understand it right away. And if it's uncomfortable and hard, like that's great. Like that's how it's supposed to be. My next one is designated helpers. And I really want to utilize students who are leaders or wanting to become leaders and who do have certain skills that are able to help other kids. So like if they finish early or if they're just having work time and I'm working with other kids, that there are certain kids that the other ones can go to instead of me. And I think sometimes kids learn better or are more receptive to getting help from their peers than from the teacher with certain things. And so I would love to just have some kids that are designated helpers, and there will probably be different ones depending on the subject and what we're doing, but I would love to do that and utilize kids and help them learn how to help other people. My last one on my list here is to make posters for internal, external, etc. So I utilize a lot of information from the company Flowsys, which literally has been a life changer, a game changer in the classroom. Like, it's amazing. But we talk a lot about uniqueness. So like what makes you you, like who are you? And there are different categories of uniqueness, and all of them are great, and I talk to the kids about them and how we're all different, and the way that our brain works and the way that we interact with the world is all going to be different, and that's a good thing and that's okay. And so then I have posters for different things, like for example, this one is internal and external thinkers. Like some people think out loud, and they're gonna talk more and they're gonna be louder, or they might, you know, talk to themselves as they're working, and that's okay. Like I don't wanna tell a kid that they can't do that if that's the way that they think. There's a way to go about it without being super distracting, but like I want to talk to the kids about that's a good thing. And so here are all the things you need to know about external thinkers, and then there are kids who think inside their head, internal thinkers, and here's all the things you need to know about them. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're shy and they don't want to talk to you, or if they need more time to think, that's okay. That's a part of who they are. And so I want to have like posters for all of those things so the kids can reference them, and I want to reference them as we're talking about different things. So all the different uniquenesses. I've made some posters already for some of the things that we talk about, but I would love to have more. There you go. That is all the stuff that I had on my Google Doc that I've been filling out. I also have a lot of things I think in my phone, like in my notes that I need to go through, but I think this video is long enough already. I also kind of want to make a video about all the routines and procedures that I want to update or add or change in my room, and then maybe go through like what I am planning for next year. But I would love to hear all the things that you are going to change for this next year. If you have any feedback on any of my ideas, like I said, if you think they're terrible, like you've tried them already and you're like, don't do it, or if you're like, yes, totally, that works, or here's how I would adjust it a little bit, I would seriously love to hear about it. I love the start of a new year because I get to change a bunch of stuff and see how it goes, and I love doing that. So yeah, thanks so much for watching this and hearing all the little ideas I had throughout the year. Thank you for being here as I went through my second full year of teaching in 5th grade. It's been quite the journey, and it is summer and I am enjoying myself, but I'm also really excited for next year and just planning and thinking about all the things that I want to change. So yeah, thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.